Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So my name's Katie and today we're going to be talking about Sapphic sci-fi books. So obviously I'm very excited because I love Sapphic books and I love sci-fi books and I've got my space buns on to celebrate the sci-fi. Got Panini here for the Sapphic rep. And yeah, so let's just get started because I have quite a few to talk about and I'm very excited. I'm also planning on doing a Sapphic fantasy, which you might see first or you might see second. Haven't decided which order I'm going to upload them in. But yeah, it's always great to get more people to read FF books. So yeah, I know I missed FF Feb, but we won't talk about that. Just any time of year is great for reading. Yeah, so these are some of my favourite sci-fi books that I've read, which feature either an FF relationship or a character who identifies as Sapphic in some way. Yeah, so, and if you don't know, Sapphic basically means a woman who is attracted to other women, so like lesbian or pansexual or bisexual or just any like queer in general kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know if I'll do like a male version of these because I haven't really read that many books. I tend to gravitate more towards Sapphic stuff, but if anyone has any recommendations then definitely let me know, and maybe one day I'll accumulate enough. The only one I really have for sci-fi is Winter's Orbit, which I love. But yeah, so that's another tangent. So let's just get into the Sapphics because that's what we're all here for. So the first one I think is going to be like no surprise to anyone if you've watched my channel at all. But that is Gideon and Harrow the Ninth. So yes, I adore this series so much. I've reread them 3 times now. Oh, and yeah, I always listen to them on audio, but I had to get myself physical copies because I just love them so much. And look at the naked cover, love the skull, and just there's so much good fan art like on Twitter and Instagram and stuff. Yeah, like it's a good fandom to get into, and there's just so many iconic characters. And let's just look at the naked Harrow before I look silvery. Before I talk about the synopsis. Oh, look at the end pages, skeletons. Yeah, so this is definitely one of my favorite like book series, not even sci-fi, just favorite book in general. So Gideon the Ninth is following Gideon, who grew up in the Ninth House as kind of an orphan. She was brought to the Ninth House mysteriously when she was a baby. And yeah, and so she has always wanted to escape. She's always like trying to escape and like dreaming of joining the cohort, which are like these soldiers. But she's always being thwarted by Harrow, who is the reverend daughter of the Ninth House. And Gideon and Harrow's banter is just the best thing ever. Like they really hate each other at the start of the book, but they kind of grow to like maybe become friends. Yeah, they just have this like such a deep connection. I do ship them as a couple, but also in a way I just feel like they go so much beyond that. They're just kind of soul like, and I guess that is the kind of Lictor thing, but like it's so deep, their connection, and I really got it like on reread this time. But yeah, so Gideon, so yeah, back to the plot. So one day Harrow recruits Gideon to be her like cavalier to go to this other house where Harrow is trying to enter this like competition thing to become a lictor, and lictors are like these essentially like god type creatures who've like ascended kind of to lictorhood and like get more powers. So the world is quite like necromantic power based. And Harrow is kind of a bone like magician, so she can control bones, but then the other houses have different kinds of magic. So yeah, so they enter this competition with, and there's like a pair from each house, one kind of adept or like necromancer and one cavalier for each house, although one of the houses is like 2 necromancers, but anyway. So there's quite a lot of characters to keep track of because there's like houses 2 to 9. And they're in this competition, and it's like this kind of gothic manor house thing, and their things start like going wrong, like characters keep dying and it kind of turns into a bit of a murder mystery, and just their character relationships are so good. Like Gideon with anyone, just the interactions, like Gideon and Harrow, obviously the most iconic pair ever, but like Gideon and Palamedes and Camilla, I love their interactions as well. I just really like the 6th house. And then there's a character called Ianthe who features a lot more heavily in Harrow, but I love her so much, like serious hot woman simping going on. Slightly villainous, but you know. But yeah, and just Gideon is such like an iconic character. She's so funny. She kind of has a really crude sense of humour, but it's really funny. Yeah, so I love it so much. And yeah, and then Harrow is basically following Harrow, and this is set after the events of Gideon. Yeah, so to talk about the plot really would kind of be spoiling it, but this book has such a good kind of like take on the kind of bitter, jaded immortals who are kind of slightly insane. I feel like this really captures the like insanity of people who've been alive like 10,000 years, and just everything about it. Like the plot is so the first time you read Harrow, I feel like you have no clue what's going on for the first 60%, but once everything clicks into place, it's so good. But then on reread, once you kind of know what's going on, it's so enjoyable. Like this book is an absolute masterpiece. Like, yeah, I just can't recommend it enough. So I feel like if you start Harrow and you kind of given up on it because you just feel like you don't know, keep reading because it's so worth it. And like the ending of Harrow is one of my favourite endings of a book ever. Just, oh, it's so good. So yeah, I cannot wait for Electo the Ninth, which is going to be the third book in the series. But yeah, I just read it. If you like chaotic and you like gays, then read it. Okay, that was like a long time talking about that one. But I get very excited. Okay, then next is a slightly more intellectual series. And that is A Memory Called Empire and A Desolation Called Peace by Arcady Martin. So A Memory Called Empire is the first one and A Desolation Called Peace is a sequel. And in A Memory Called Empire, we're following a character called Mahit who travels to this Texclani empire to become the ambassador for her station. So she's from the station called Liesel Station, which is kind of a like, I don't think subsidiary is the right word, but like a part of the kind of Texclani empire. But she's going to like the capital. And she's kind of someone who her like culture has been very much infiltrated by this Texclani culture, and she's kind of enamored by this culture, but also she feels like she's sort of betraying her sort of homeland. So yeah, I feel like that has a lot of good like parallels with the real world. But there her previous ambassador has been mysteriously like murdered, so she's trying to investigate what's going on. And she also has this like consciousness implanted in her of her previous ambassador, which is like this kind of highly sought after technology. But she has like an old version in her, so she doesn't know what's happened to the kind of updated version, I guess, who's just died. And at the same time, there's all this like political situation going on, like there's a kind of coup brewing. So yeah, it's really good. And I feel like the first one, it does take a little while to get into, like it's quite dense. It's this whole new world and whole new terminologies, but once you're into it, it gets so good. And the characters are really lovable. So Mahit kind of teams up with this 3 seagrass who is like this almost guide to the city, and they have a bit of a relationship going on, which is kind of, it's like there, but it's very subtle in the first book, and it mainly like happens towards the end. But then in the second book, it's a major part, and it's so good. And oh, there's a sex scene. But yeah, oh, I just loved it so much. So yeah, so in the second one, we're following Mahit and 3 seagrass again, but we're also following some other characters, which I really enjoyed actually, because you get like more POVs, and it's kind of a first contact storyline, which is really cool. Yeah, so we're following this character called Nine Hibiscus, who's like this military fleet leader, and they're kind of on the like edges of the known universe, and they're kind of having these interactions with aliens for like the first time. And the space kittens, which I just love. And yeah, and I love it. And we're also following this character called A Antidote, who is in the first book, and he's like the heir as the emperor, and he has such a cute storyline in this one. Oh, he's so sweet. And also, if you're like me and you like hot, powerful older women to simp after, there is a character called 19 Ads, and she is like, oh, just perfect. So yeah, I would highly recommend this series. And I feel like it's an iconic sci-fi, especially Sapphic sci-fi series. And also the author is so cute with her wife on Twitter. But yeah, so that's this one. And next, it won't be a video about sci-fi books without Becky Chambers. So I love Becky Chambers books, like the Wayfarer's books. They're so good. So I chose these two because these two both have Sapphic relationships in them. So the first one, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, we are following Rosemary, and she joins the crew of this wayfarer, and there they kind of go on this, they're going on this route to try and get to another planet to like punch a hole in it, to not punch a hole in the planet, oh gosh, to like punch a hole to make a ring gate, so near the planet, so like transport ships can get through and stuff. But this planet is like a highly contested piece of space, and they're like trying to join this like overarching like, I can't remember, I think it's the Galactic Commons, which is basically like the UN but for the whole galaxy. But this planet is quite like warmongering, so there's a bit of kind of debate going on there. But we're basically really following the crew of the wayfarer, and as they kind of travelling to get there, and they're like stopping on different planets and like just discovering more about themselves and like getting to know the crew and like getting to know the different types of like cultures, and it is so good. It is so heartwarming, and like the characters are so good. And yeah, Rosemary sort of strikes up a bit of a relationship with this other character called Sapphic. Sapphic is an Andrask, and they're really like affectionate, like physically. So Rosemary sort of volunteers to like, yeah, have a kind of physical relationship with her, which is really cute. And I feel like it's a different kind of way of exploring a relationship, because they're not kind of super romantic, but it's like still kind of almost like a friends with benefits situation. And I feel like Becky Chambers is really good at sort of exploring like different ways of relationships, like it's not just kind of a nuclear family type thing. So yeah, that's really good. And then Record of a Spaceborne Few has this old lesbian couple, and they are so cute. I can't remember their names. I think one of them is called Isabel. I can't remember her wife's name, but they're so precious. And like they go on this like ride one time, there's like these have these like pods and almost like a roller coaster, and they always used to do it when they were little, and then they like do it together, and it's just the most precious thing ever. And like I feel like it's really nice to see an older Sapphic couple, who like a very established couple, and just seeing their relationships is so good, and I just love it. So yeah, I would highly recommend this one. And this one we're kind of following the humans, so it's the same, set in the same world, just a long way to a small angry planet. But like the humans who are on this Exodon fleet, and basically they left Earth on this fleet to kind of go and explore the universe, but now the kind of fleet is just sort of, there's nowhere really left to explore, so they're just kind of finding, and it's just really, it's very, very like quiet novel. There's not really much plot at all. But it's just kind of exploring like what it means to be human, and like the purpose, like finding your purpose in life, I guess. We're just kind of following some different characters, one of whom is the older couple. And yeah, it's such a joy. And one of the characters is kind of, she's like, I don't know what the term is, not a coroner, like a funeral person, I don't know, she like prepares the bodies for funerals. What's it called? I don't know what it's called, but and the name's like on the tip of my brain. But I feel like that's a really good exploration as well, kind of around death and like the kind of duties of people who are caring for people after death. I think it's really interesting. So yeah, I would recommend that series, whatever, but the fact that it has Sapphic couples as well is just so cute. So yeah. Then next we have Unconquerable Sun by Elliott, and I believe this one is some kind of retelling, maybe like Alexander the Great, I think, in space. But anyway, so this one we're following Princess Sun, and she is like the kind of princess, but her mum's kind of slightly evil. But basically, to get the Princess Sun out the way, she sort of sends her on this like tour of the sort of planets that they rule. So Sun, with her little like cabal of friends, go on this tour, but there's sort of political stuff brewing, and Sun's kind of investigating, and I think at one point they're being like hunted down by assassins, and Sun has this relationship with her like close childhood friend, which is really cute. So that's the kind of relationship, so that just an added bit to the book. But honestly, the kind of plot of this one and the characters I really enjoyed. And there's another character, I would say actually the main character, because Sun is kind of half the main character, but I feel like the other main character is called Persephone, and she is a really interesting character, and she is kind of an estranged scion of this other family, and they're almost kind of like a crime family. Well, not really a crime family, but they're a bit of like the kind of black sheep of the empire, but she's kind of joins Sun's like group as one of her companions, and just that dynamic is really good, and it's really fun. And I don't know, I really like Persephone as a character. She is like such an inspirational character. Like her attitude and like just everything. I just love her. So yeah, no, that's a really enjoyable book. I'd highly recommend. I'm sorry if that was a terrible synopsis. It's been a while since I read it, but it's really fun, and it did take me a little, like maybe 5 or 10% to get into, but once I was in, it was really like fast, fun read. So yeah. Okay, so then next we have this one, which is The Psychology of Time Travel, and this is kind of sci-fi, but also it's kind of a thriller. And we're basically following these 4 characters who sort of invented time travel. So I'll read you the synopsis. So it's like 1967, 4 female scientists invent a time travel machine, but one of them suffers a public breakdown and puts the whole project in peril. And then 2017, Ruby knows her Granny B was the scientist who went mad, but they never talk about it until they receive a message from the future warning of an elderly woman's violent death. 2018, Adette found the dead woman at work, shot in the head, door bolted from the inside. Now she can't get it out of her mind. Who was she, and why is everyone determined to cover up her murder? So yeah, it's kind of a thriller, but also there's kind of some time travel and stuff explored, and I feel like the 1960s stuff is very like not throwback sci-fi, but like I don't know what the kind of term is. It's like NASA in the 60s, that kind of vibes. Yeah, and there's a Sapphic relationship, and it's a really interesting Sapphic relationship because it's kind of a bit time bendy. Like they're sort of, because these characters can like travel through time, then it's kind of hard to explain like without reading it, but like it's a very interesting dynamic. And like the ages are kind of, because you can like, the age doesn't really matter because it's confusing, but yeah, this is a really enjoyable read, and I really like the cover actually. It's kind of it's a bit crazy, but kind of sums up the book. So yeah, that's that one. Just looking at my eyebrows, one looks like 10 times bigger than the other. Oh well. Then next we have The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson, and this is another like really fun sci-fi, and I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this. Like I thought I was gonna like it, but I like really loved it, and like the relationship is so good and so precious. So basically we're on Kara. So in the world, you can basically travel to other like parallel universes, but only if your like other self in that universe has died. So Kara is dead in like quite a lot of the universes because of her kind of background, like how she's been brought up. But in this world, she's alive. But she's I think it's of the 360 realities that have been unlocked, Kara is dead in all but 8. So she can travel to any of these realities except like 8 of them. And that's really interesting because like the government have hired her to like travel to these other worlds and like get information and get stuff. And her supervisor, Dell, their like relationship is so funny. They're quite antagonistic, and I feel like there's sort of a misunderstanding that's happened, and like Dell thinks Kara hates her and Kara thinks Dell hates her, but they kind of have this flirty banter and it just escalates. Oh, it's so good. But the actual plot of the book is really good as well. I feel like it's kind of that insidious like government kind of benevolent seeming like boss of this sort of company, because I don't think it's a company actually, I don't think it's a government, I think it's the company. But actually it has a lot of like dark secrets, and then there's also a kind of different storyline with like these gangs, and I think in one of the words Kara is like the wife of this sort of gang leader, and yeah, and then they get like favours from him, and it's just, there's a lot going on, but it's really enjoyable, and the way it all kind of ties together is so good. And Kara is such a great character. She reminds me a little bit of Gideon from Gideon the Ninth, but she's just this really kind of feisty, but won't like take no for an answer. And she will go after like what she wants, but also she sort of, it's the kind of character where like they seem like they're super tough and badass, but actually they have a secret heart of gold. And like when the universe needs saving, she'll like step up to it. And yeah, so I just really enjoyed it and would highly recommend. So yeah, that's that one. Okay, and then a couple more which I haven't read, but I just wanted to mention just in case you're interested. So there's The First Sister by Lyndon Lewis, and I don't really know much about this one, but I know it's meant to be kind of similar to Red Rising, which sounds really cool, and I know it's Sapphic, obviously it's in this video. But yeah, so that's one, sounds cool. Escaping Exodus by Nikki Drayden. Again, I don't know much about what it's about, but I do know this bisexual main character. it's like sci-fi. I feel like that's self-explanatory because it's in this video. Oh, what am I doing? And then also Persephone Station, which is another kind of sci-fi type book. I feel like I know vaguely what that one's about, but I've forgotten. Sorry, I'm not a very good booktuber. Oops. So there are 3 that I would really like to read soon, and hopefully they'll be good. So yeah. So hopefully you got some recommendations from this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what your favourite Sapphic sci-fi book is, or if you have any recommendations, more recommendations for me. I would love to know, because honestly they're like some of my top books. Like, ugh, you can't beat it really. So yeah, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I hope you're all having a great day, and I will see you next time.